All right, so now I'm going to go ahead and back out of this. I'm going to exit. And when the very first time you exit, it's going to say, what do you want your rule for exiting to be? Do you want to go to that post? Do you want to go to all your posts, or do you want to go to just your dashboard? I like to set dashboard. That's just, I like to get back to the dashboard where I can see things. So the very first time you click exit, it's going to ask that question. After that, it doesn't ask that question. So I'm going to exit to my dashboard, and here we're going to start exploring this part of the menu. So this, specifically the posts and the pages, are the meat of your website. I recommend you default to pages unless you're truly just building a blog. The posts are for blogging. They're pre-formatted pages, and they are built so that you can bring them in and visually feature all of them in broken up, what would you call them, badges? Yes. What did you say? Yeah, little segments there, right? So you can see all of them at once. Posts are designed to do that way. Pages are not necessarily designed to do that. So if you're trying to have that sort of visual representation or presentation of your website, then posts is a great way to go. Once you get into it, building with the elements is almost identical. So I build on pages. So we're gonna go ahead and start with pages, but before I do, let's go into customize. We just have to tell it what our home page is going to be. And so under homepage settings here, we just have to say, right now it's set to be a blog, and so it's just gonna bring up your latest blog post as the home page. I don't want it to be a blog, I want this to be a website, so I'm gonna change that to be a static page, and I'm going to select home. Home is going to be and it looks like we've got some elements on there already, so we'll go ahead and start with that. But home is going to be my home page. Let's go ahead and publish. And we can close that down. All right, so now I'm going to come into my pages, and here's where you'll see that I've got a sample page, which I can use for my second page, whatever I want it to do. I'm going to start with my home page. This is where we're going to build the essence of it. Once I have a few pages built, which I do now actually, I've got a home page, a sample page, and a privacy policy, I'm going to actually come into Appearance Menus. Appearance Menus is where I now build the menu items that are going to be represented on the page. And let's just say the very first thing I have to do is I have to create that menu. So I'm going to create the menu, and I'm going to tell it that I want this to be a header menu. I don't want to display the same menu in the header and the footer. So this one's only going to display in the header. We're going to call this one main. Some call it primary. I mean, you can call it whatever you want. We'll call it main menu. That's great. And we go ahead and save the menu, and now once it's there, it will say, well, which pages do you want to put here? I'm going to say, well, let's go ahead and put our home page that says home, and let's put the sample page. It's going to change its name to be services or something like that. Let's go ahead and have that on there, and let's add those to the menu. Let's also add our privacy policy. No, I don't want to add that to, I'm going to add that to the footer. But let's say I do have a custom link, and let's say that the button is going to take them to a page that's not on my website. Maybe it's a payment form, or maybe it's a registration for something, or a Google form, or something that you've set up somewhere else on the website. You can create this custom link, and I'm just going to tell it to go to puckrufus.com. That's my business website. So that if they click on this, but, oh, whoops, sorry, I put that up here. puckrufus.com, and we're going to call this sign up, or master.
And that's linking the entire menu, or is it?
This just put a menu option on the menu that's going to go somewhere else. It's just one of the main options. So you'll see here that I've got home and sample page. And let's say that when I change the details elsewhere, you'll see this change. So I'm going to come back to this page. But let's go ahead and add this, and you'll see I've called this master. So now it's going to say in my menu, home, sample page, and master, which you can really, menu can be whatever you want it to be, right? You can be as playful or as professional as you want to be as you're building it. And right now I'm just trying to give you some items to work with. So we're going to save that menu. And now when I go to my home page, which already has this on it, but you'll see here now I have some items to work with, but I don't want to use that font. I know I chose it, but that was before I knew I was doing GrowDandy. So I want it to be something that's more easy to read, and we're gonna change that. So let's go ahead and go edit with Elementor. Gives you this black bar across the top, any of the pages that you visit. And once I'm into it, you're meant to edit just the content of that page. But if you roll over this, you see how this greened out area says, oh, this is the header area. You can get in and edit it just by clicking on it. But then now, once you're in the header area, it won't allow you to edit the content area. They function separately. So I clicked on that. Edit. So let's, that is all you're supposed to have to do, and it's not playing. So we'll edit that elsewhere. But you can see here that my main menu is also on the bottom. I'm going to change that out to be a footer menu after I've created it. Okay. All right. So let's go ahead and delete this, and we're going to recreate this anew. Let's say that I do want a hero section here, and I want the elements in it to flow top to bottom. Okay, we've been doing side to side for the header. Let's say I want these to be flowing top to bottom, and I want the background image to be a slideshow of elements, or a video for that matter. I don't have a video. You can bring in a YouTube video, a Vimeo video. You can bring it in from another provider like that, and just add the code in, and it'll work really great. Maybe I'll just go grab one so that you can see what I mean. Your videos. Let's grab something here that, okay. Get a shareable link. All right, and where was I? Here we go. All right, let's say, first of all, I want my container to be I want it to be 600 pixels tall, just like this. I want to fix that, right, so that it's the height that I want. And then I want most of my content, this grayed outline here is where my content will all be. That means it's boxed. If I don't care about that, I can make that full width, but in this instance, I'm going to keep this one boxed for my text. And I want my background here to be video, which is the third option in here. And this fourth one is the slideshow. I'll do that after I've done the video. So I say video, and it says, well, give me the link. In this case, it's a YouTube link. So I put that in, and it'll start playing. What I have here is just a slide through of things related to this business. This business is a venue where you can have all sorts of different events, weddings, concerts, parties, etc. So this video is intended to kind of give a snapshot of that, while over the top of what you're seeing there is part of the background design. It's not any of the elements in this container, which means I can add elements into the container now, and I can say all of your many events. Obviously, you'll be thinking through your wording a lot more than I am right now, but I can center that, and then I can tell, once I click on the container, I can go into the layout and I can choose here. I want this to be centered down here. I want it to be, centered both ways, so that no matter what's showing behind there, they can see this. Now I'm going to go into my style. I'm going to make my text white so that it's easier to see. Oops, sorry. I'm in my container. So let me just go ahead and get that back to where it was. Let me click on my heading. I'm going to turn this green into white so that it can be seen on all of the various different background types. And let's say, well, it's kind of hard to see still. I can use what's called a background overlay. That's one of these other sections here. Actually in style, let's see. Here's where you have to dance between your different elements. So what I'm trying to do is, I don't want a background overlay on the heading. I want it under the container that's holding the heading, right? So in this case, I'm going to choose my container, go to my style, and I have this background overlay, which will allow me to choose a color. In this case, I'm going to choose black, and I'm choosing that at 50%, right? I can completely black out the elements, right? Or do anything in between. On this slider, in this case, I'm just going to go 50%, and it makes it so that I can still see my video, but any text that's on the top of it can be seen a lot clearer, right? So you can see how, as a designer, Elementor will allow you to do really anything you want. Even if you're not a designer, it gives you so many options, allowing you to. Here we're gonna go with Montserrat as our font. Something's a little bit more modern, and I want this to be all caps. So we can change between, you can see everything's capitalized, you can see that it's lowercase, everything's lowercase. You can change it so that you can just type it in and then set the transform to whatever you want it to be. In this case, I'm going to go all caps, and I'm going to make the size 45 so that it's nice and big and maybe thinner. Let's go really light, okay? Just for whatever I'm trying to do. And in fact, let's give it a green hue. I'm going to go back to my container, and what I had as a black overlay, I'm now going to switch to a green overlay. And I wouldn't do that, but we're going to do it for this because I just want to show you that even when you make decisions, you can go back and remake your decisions, right? That's the beauty of it. All right, so let's just say, all right, I like it. It's where I wanted to be. Let's go ahead and move on to the next thing. Oh, wait, but I need a button in here because I want them to sign up or book their event, right? So let's say book your event, and you can't see anything because it's green on green on green on green. So let's go ahead and I would put my link here to where I want it to go, which everything has a link. Everything's linkable in a website. In this case, I want to make my background color the dark green. I want to make my text color, which you'll see here that I've got, here we are, text color white. And let's go ahead and put those rounded corners on border radius here, 25. Once again, I don't expect you to remember everything that I'm doing. I want you to get an idea for the rhythm of building a website and kind of like the types of things you can do. I remember taking my very first Photoshop class and being like, I don't even know what I can do with Photoshop, let alone, and so I don't know what to do because I don't know what I can do, right? This is just kind of exploring all the different elements. If you've seen it on a website, you can pretty much do it. Okay, with Elementor. How to get there is, there may be a creative way that you need to do it, but we're going to go through several of these elements. So here is your standard hero section, and now that you've seen it with a video, I'm going to switch it out so that now it's a slideshow instead. So I'm going to go back to my container, and I'm going to go, instead of video here, I'm going to click slideshow, and it's going to say, well, you got to choose some pictures then. I'm going to say, okay, easy. All of these are part of a series, and so I want them to all be part of it, and I'm going to insert them in, and then I'm going to say, I want it to switch it deals in nanoseconds. So this is 5,000 nanoseconds, which is 5 seconds. Every 5 seconds, it's going to switch. Millisecond, thank you, milliseconds. And so we're going to switch here to 2,000 milliseconds. I appreciate that. Now every 2 seconds, it's going to switch over to a different style. Now that I've got these pictures in here, I don't need that background overlay. So now I'm going to go back to my background overlay. We're going to kill that. I'm going to click on the picture and click this clear. Right? So now I'm back to, now I'm going to need to make my font a little bit bolder. And voila, now I can see that, of course, and now we're funneling through and seeing the different styles of retainer wall that can be done by this company. And now we're ready for our next section. My recommendation for a home page is to use it as an index for your entire website. So if, for example, you have across the top, you have about, because you want to tell about your company or about yourself, right? Then I recommend that the second or third section on your home page point to that about page. The About page is one of the most visited, after the home page, it's the most visited page on your website. If you have services, or if you have a portfolio or something like that that you're trying to feature and point to, then I recommend having a section that replicates what you're seeing in the menu up above, so that if they're viewing the website on a device and they're scrolling instead of using your menu, they get essentially the same experience and can get to the same pages, but you're basically featuring all of the important parts of your website. So let's just say in the second section here, I want to do an About section that's about the team. Okay, so I'm gonna click here, and I want this to be a two-part. I'm gonna have a picture on one side, and I'm gonna have text on the other side. So I'm going to do a two-part section here, and at any time, just so you know, I can turn this two-part into a three-part, right? Like this is just blank canvas. The containers are very malleable, and at any time I can delete this and turn this three-part back into a two-part. Not a problem, okay? I can also say, do I want my items to be kind of floating in this void of color, or do I want them to take up the whole space? Maybe for this one I want it to take up the whole space. Let's just say that. Currently, the default is that it's kind of floating in the void. And I'm going to color these things different colors just so you can kind of see what's going on. Let's give it a light gray background color for the container, just so that you can see the difference between it and other sections. And let's say that I want the minimum of this, I want the minimum height to be 400. Okay, so it's going to be this. Actually, I'm going to go 500, just so that it's a little bigger. Now I can say, you know, I want there to be a picture inside of my container. Now, here's where there's two different approaches. If you want a series of elements in a container, then add the image in as an element right here, image. Add it into the container, but you'll see that it's separate from the container, is separated by this 20-point border margin, and that it'll size separately from that container. If, however, you want it to size with the device and you want it to always take up half of the space no matter what you're looking at, then instead of importing the image here, actually, I'm going to show you both. I'm just going to bring in one of these. I guess I got a lot of those. Oh, actually, let's feature one of these. So you can see the block, and you're like, oh, okay, I want it to take up the whole space, right? Then you would delete the image there, and you would make the background of this section a picture, which is the brush here. And image is one of the options that you have for the background. And let's get something that's more, well, they're all the same. I don't want to overwhelm you with all the same image. In this case, you can see here that it's totally cutting off a huge chunk of your image, and it's not showing all the parts here. And that's because we haven't set here the basic settings regarding the image. We want our position to be center and center. We want our attachment to be, well, let's not worry about that yet. I'll show you why that's there. We don't want the image to repeat, and we want it to cover the space. So it's going to, no matter where it is, it's going to cover that space. But you can see here that I still have a 20-point border by default around this container. I can go up and in my advanced section, if I just unclick this link here, it will make it all 0 and it'll make everything slap to the edges. Lastly, you can see that it cuts off on this right side so that the gray extends there, and it's because my content is boxed. I want my content in my container to be full width, and now my picture will extend to the full width of, if I click here, you'll see that I'll have full picture on the one side and a space for my text on the other side. And I can do things like, in this container, I'll click on the container and I'll say motion effect. The very first time that comes in, I want it to fade up like that. So it fades into place, right? And then on this side, I'm going to say something like, okay, I want there to be a healthy border around so that everything's kind of centered in this space. I'm going to do a 100 pixel border, meaning all of my elements are going to fit in this small section here. Now let's bring in a heading. and a text editor and a button, which are the common features of a section like this. Okay, and I want these items to be centered. In my layout, I want them to be centered and centered. Nope, I don't want that to be centered. Let's say I want it to be like this. But you can see I've got my border all the way around it. And let's say I want my text to be, this is why you want to do business with us. And here is why we got started into business. You will learn everything about us right here. And let's just pretend that I wrote a little section here. And it's divided into 2 lines like that you've got busyness. Now, you can see that I can edit directly on the page here. I can get in here and change this to here. Right? I can edit directly here, or I can edit over here. As a general rule, if I've already written my content, let's say in a Google Doc, and I'm copying and I'm pasting it in here, you don't want to paste it into this section here because it's going to remember the styling of the Google Doc. And it's going to totally mess everything up and it's going to bring in a lot of code. But if you paste it over here on this side here, this is where you want to paste it. And if you get any problems with the styling there, you can do it in text mode, and it will do it so that only the text comes across. And then you get to style it using the presets that you've determined here in the style. That won't make as much of a difference until you've built like 80 pages of your website and you're like, man, I just wish it was a consistent look and feel. I just have like 7 different fonts. And anyway, it'll make a difference. So if you start off that way, you can type in changes here, but if you're going to copy and paste anything, copy and paste it over here in the content section on the left side. Okay, that's the big difference between those two. Now let's say that I want this to mirror this. The 2 easiest ways are, 1, I can copy this one, and right here I can paste. And you notice I'm pushing paste above it on the element that's above, because it will always throw that element as the next element. Right? So that's why I did it that way. The easiest way is to just copy an element that you've already designed, just like this, and then just change the words. Right? Learn about us. But you can also I've already copied that. You can click on anything like this, and you can, and you can paste the style of that section, which essentially does the same thing. If you've already written all of the content, right, then you just paste the style and it'll apply that style to that same section. And lastly, let's go ahead and increase this a little bit. Let's take this down to 400. Nope, let's go up to 500 and make it big, 45. All right, this is why you want to do business with us, learn about us, delete. All right, and I don't have an about section of our menu yet. Let's go ahead and update this. And let's go into let's see if it'll let us into our header yet. Nope, it's not letting us into our header. I'm going to go the other way. Okay, so let's exit. Let's go back to appearance and menu. And let's add, I haven't added the about page yet, so I'm gonna fake it till we make it. We're going to do an about page, and ultimately if you do a slug and the page just like this, that first slash tells it this website plus this element, right? And so if the website is going to be 123built.com, or right now it's 123built.mysites.io, but it's eventually going to change. By doing this slash about, it's going to just always replace it with whatever the current domain is. So it's a great way when you're doing your links. If the domain's ever going to change, it's a good idea to leave the domain off and just start with whatever follows the domain by starting with that slash. Let's go ahead and add that to the menu, and then let's get in and adjust our templates one more time so that we have, let's edit our header, edit. Now that we've got some words to work with, let's change the fonts. I'm going to make my, well, let's just change this one, Montserrat. And let's make everything caps. There we go. All right, so now we can see it. Let's maybe make it a little lighter. Something like that. And then let's say that when we hover over the item, like that, there we go. I want a pointer color and I want it to be this darker green. And that when it's active, let's say I want it to be the lighter green with no pointer color. Let's just say that that's the case. All right, now I'll update that. We'll jump back out of there, exit. Let's get back into our footer and just do the same thing. And I neglected to, let's see if I can jump between, yeah, I can. So I'm going to copy this, and we're going to go back to my footer, and we're going to paste the style. But yeah, there we go. And now, even though it's vertical, you see it took all of my styled elements and replicated those. So that ability to paste style is awesome. It's huge, especially over the course of an entire website. On this, I'm going to tell this that I want this to be, let's go center. Yeah, let's go center in that space. And maybe make the thing smaller. Okay, so you can see that we can adjust things right on the page or through numbers if it needs to be precise. And that is for a regular desktop view of it, which is, by the way, so different than if you're trying to just use the Gutenberg blocks on WordPress without a builder. Like it's a world of difference. So once again, it's worth the money to pay for the Pro, but you guys are here and you can use my Pro version if you want. So okay, we're going to go exit out of this again, and we're going to come back to our home page. And now I want to show you, let me build one more section here. I'll build two more sections, and then I'm going to show you how to make it mobile responsive. Okay, so this next section is going to be an identical version section. I'm just going to duplicate and switch the order of things. Let's say that in this container, I want this container to be on the right, so they flip-flop, right? And I want my picture to be one of these styrofoam blocks. Let's go ahead and choose that one. And I want it to fill the space. Okay, so there it is, filling the space. And I want this one to zoom in from the right instead of up. Let's go in left. There we go. So it zooms in left, right? And here is one of my products. And I accidentally moved it down. Let's move it back up. So you can see it's easy to shuffle things around. So don't freak out if things are totally out of place, because you can easily just drag and drop them where you want them to be once they're in place. All right, we got the text associated with it, we've got our button, and the best way and easiest way to build a website is to build an element and then duplicate it, right? And switch out the things, right? And then do it again and again and again until you've got a full website, and it's also a consistent experience, which is also important, right? So in this case, I'm just switching out the elements that now are going to be, this one is learn about our products. Okay, so this one will of course point to a different page. Now you see the little hashtag that's right here? So some people like to build a single page site with different sections, and that's what the hashtag is for. It's called an anchor. An anchor is something that we can set up. Let me just say the book or event. I'm going to put anchor products. That's not actually where it's going to go, but in this case, I'm going to make this section. I'm going to have this section in my advanced CSS ID here. I'm going to call it products, which means my anchor is going to look for this CSS ID somewhere, and it's going to zip to that part of the website, okay, or the page, the current page that it's on. So that if I click update and I come up here and I like what I see and I click there, zip, it goes right to that section. That's what the anchor means. So you literally can not only send people to a page, but you can put the page / hashtag anchor right? And it'll take them to that page and zip down to the part of the page that you had intended for them to go. So it's a great way to differentiate the content that's on there. And let's just say that we want this to go to the top, and we're going to make this our top. So in the CSS ID, we're going to make that the top, and that way we can ping pong back and forth. We can say, yeah, I want to go to that section. No, I want to go to that section, right? And that's how it's done. Counter. So I'm going to come in here. I've got some kind of counter to do. Now, before I was creating my containers and then adding elements to it. You don't actually have to do that. That's just how I do it. But you can bring your element right into there, and it will, it'll put the container in place. But then I have to go back and I have to tell the container, well, I want 3 things in here, and I want them to go side to side, and I want them to be centered, and I want them to be centered that way. Right? And then I can just duplicate this and duplicate it again, and then I can say, oh, they're so close together, let's spread them out. So in my container layout again, I'm going to add a little bit of padding. I'm going to say I want there to be 30, padding around it so that there's some spacing there. Actually, let's make it 50. Space is your friend. And then here's my gaps in the layout section. I already showed you how to align things and justify things, but let's add some gaps in here. Our column gaps, let's make this 150, and it'll spread that out and automate how far away they are, right? So now I have my container, so I go into an individual element, then I can say, well, I want this count up to 1 million, right? And I want to, 10 million, I guess. And I want this one to count up to 47. And I want it to be a counter of, right now it's a cool number, I want it to be a bad number, right? So maybe we've got the pros and the cons, but you can mention specifically what these are, and it's a nice, just little eye-catching way to have things. You can also make it so that it takes a long time to count up, right? So right now it is taking 2,000 milliseconds to count up. Let's say that let's add another 0 on there. And this will just take its sweet time, 20 seconds, to get from there to there. Or we can add another 0 on there, and it'll just take its sweet time. Or we can add another 0 on there. Anyway, it depends on how you want to count up, right? Some people want things that count up infinitely, right? And you can make that number infinitely huge and take forever to get there, and it will just be forever catching up. You can also have a start number and an ending number. So let's say that I want to start at 35,000, right? And I want it to count to whatever my super high number is, but I'm going to put another 0 in there. And I want it to just, almost like clockwork, I want it to go up only, like every, maybe I put too many zeros in there. Let's just add in a, in a 5 somewhere in here.
This is speeding up.
Yeah, so here we go. So let's just say that we want that number to be growing. That number's not actually going to start until they get on the website, right? So you can fudge with this number, but you can be like, well, there's this many cans that are going in every second of every day, and this is how many, and you do the math, put the numbers in, and then it'll present itself, right? So, all right. So that's how it goes. This is not a countdown, but that is an element that would be countdown right here. So it's the opposite program, right? But here you choose the date, the time, the second that you want it to, the sale goes until June 27th at 3:30 p.m. and you just define the time right here, and then it will do the rest. So, all right, so just know that the thing you want to do with your website, it's probably available in Elementor, but it may have its own widget, or it may take just a little bit of creative structuring in order to get it to be where you want it. And all of these things, I can change the font, I can change the color, I can change everything to be what I want it to be, right? I call these elements widgets, little programs, but you can actually also bring in pre-designed widgets, as Elementor is so robust that they probably have a coded option already built in that it's going to work with less troubleshooting than if you were to bring in a widget. That's not 100% of the case, but for most basic websites, almost everything you need is going to be there. Now I do have clients who they make requests and I'm like, yeah, this element doesn't allow that level of customization. But I can bring in a programmer who can customize even these widgets to add more customization to them. So yeah, and the more you keep it to Elementor, the more it's going to be seamless and fast, and then it's not going to break. It's going to be a great. I'm going to update this. Now we're going to talk a little bit about responsiveness. Here in the responsive mode, just in this bottom menu, we have settings, and then we have responsive mode right here, right? If I click on that, then it shows me, oh, well, this is what it's going to look like when you're on your desktop, right here, right? And if you were to click on tablet, here's what it's going to look like on your tablet. And I think, oh, well, that's fine, but I don't necessarily want these to cut off this way, and maybe this isn't, and here's how it's going to show up on your phone. Like, where did my pictures go? Oh, there they are. What's going on, right? So right off the bat, we're confronted with a problem. It has not been thought through responsively yet. Okay, it's following the rules of the desktop, but the rules need to change for the two other views. Now, one thing to note is that it's like a waterfall, in that whatever changes you make to the desktop also reflect on the tablet and then reflect on the mobile as well. But whatever changes I make in the mobile are not reflected on the tablet and are not reflected on the desktop. So whatever happens down water doesn't happen up water, if that makes sense, right? It flows down, but it doesn't flow upwards. So if, for example, I say, oh, well, let me go back into my edit mode. In yesteryear, you had to design a completely separate mobile site for your website. So you'd have a mobile.puckrufus.com instead, right? That's no longer needed. Now they just have a mobile view of your website, and it's all the same elements, all the same CSS code with some minor alterations, like padding.
So it's kind of like a mobile style?
Mobile styling is all that it is. And so it just creates a little bracket, it's a little tiny itty bitty code that says, when mobile, use this code instead. Right? One thing to keep in mind is that copy and paste style is a save. It's just so awesome, especially when you've already built your website and you're just going back in to fix it. Getting one element the way you want it and getting it perfect, and then going back into all of the others and right-click, paste style, paste style, paste style. I can't say that word. That's a tongue twister. Anyway, you paste the style again and again and again and again. And it just replicates, and tells it to remember this view in this view. I used the same word twice. In mobile mode. Okay, so when I get to mobile mode, let's just say that, for example, I want to be able to see more of this picture, and I don't want my text to be so big, and so I'm going to come into my layout and I'm going to adjust this. I don't need it to be 600 on a mobile, maybe I want it to be 300, and I want my text to be way smaller. Instead of being 45, we're going to go down to 30. Yeah, 35, we'll have it be 2, and then, yeah, let's say I'm okay with that. So then when I get into my next section here, in this container, I don't need it to have 100. Maybe I just need 25 for my spacing around it, right? So that I can see it. Here we go in the typography. Let's go back down let's go to 30, right? So that I can change that number to be whatever it is. This is what I want it to look like, right? So I'm as a designer, I'm seeing exactly what it's going to look like when it goes on somebody's phone. Let's say that here, I want this to be centered in this space just for the mobile, but not for the other ones. On this, let's say I do want this picture to be here, but I want this picture to be above. No, let's go below. Let's say I want this picture to be below, just so they're divided up differently, right? First of all, let's change my layout so that my minimum height is 400, or maybe let's go 300. 300. Okay, so that my picture can be seen there. And then on this one, I'll do the same thing. My minimum size is 300, but I want this to appear down below. So the way that we do that is not on wrap, on advanced here, you can change the order. I can say on the mobile only, I want this to appear below or above it, right? And it's only going to change it here. It's not going to change it on the desktop. So again, I'm going to come back to here. Let's make this 25. And then let's borrow our style. Copy, paste style, and let's see if copying this will get that to go to the center too. If not, paste style. Yeah. So just remembering the rules, right? Which is going to be a huge time saver. It's awesome, and you're going to be designing like a professional. So let's just say on this one, for our style, we want our title to be much smaller. And you can see here that I've got a different style for a counter, the number, and the title, right? So in this case, it's the number that I want to be smaller, and I want it to be 25. Ooh, nope. Let's just click up until it's the size I want it to be. It's almost the same. 60. Okay, we're going to go 60, and we're going to tell this that I only want that 25 border around it. Actually, let's go. I'm going to separate them, and on the top and bottom I'll do 50, but on the sides I only want it to be 25. And I want my gap between the numbers, since they're top to bottom now, I want that to be 50 instead of 150. And lastly, I'm going to take out my counter for now. Actually, let's just say I want, this is an important one, I want this to show up on the desktop, but I don't want it to show up on the mobile. So there is, under the advanced section, there's this section called responsive, and on every element of the website I can say, I don't want this to show up on the mobile, or I do want it to show up on the mobile, but not on the desktop, right? And once again, allowing you to give them a very customized experience in that environment. And a very useful feature when you are wanting to simplify the mobile experience versus a more robust desktop experience. All right, last of all, let's go to our tablet view. And you'll see that our tablet view has still inherited that nothing that I changed in the mobile found its way to the tablet. If I had instead done the tablet first, then those changes would have flowed down to the mobile, but not up to this. No, I always go desktop, tablet, mobile in that order, because a lot of, like, if I size this font down, it'll size it down on the desk or on the mobile as well. Creates less work. Yeah. If I decide, oh, I don't want these side by side, I want them top to bottom, and I want this minimum 300, and I do those changes here, and then it'll reflect on the mobile as well, and it'll just save some work going down. So, all right, so on this one, I get to do these all again. Let's do it a little bit more. Let's do 40, so that we've got more space to work with. But let's say that we do want this one in this sense, to be top down instead of side to side. Now, you can see here that I'm working with something that is half, it was intended to be half of the space, right? So it's already preset to be 50% of my layout, right here, 50. Well, I want it to be 100, so I'm going to change that to be % and take that all the way to 100. And then I'm going to do the same thing for this. I want this to be 300 pixels here, and I want it to be 100 on my width. All right, so then I can take that style, copy, and let's apply it to here, paste style. And I need to tell this that I want this to be top bottom, because it won't, there we go. And then we'll, now here's one that doesn't work. So if I copy this one and I paste this style, it's going to change out my image. Yeah. So it changed out my image, so I don't want to do that. Control Z to go backwards. And in this case, I'll just, once again, go up here. And that's because it's a background image. It's not an image inside the container. All right, so then I want to tell this, oh, I want to switch places in order, so that it goes information, picture, information, picture, information, picture, kind of like that. And then I've got my counter and my clock, right? All right, so update. We have 20 more minutes. Let's do something real world. Is there a problem you're experiencing specifically that I can work into this website design? Say again, interested in doing API calls? So the an API is a key between a third-party program and this, right? And generally what will happen is they'll have their own rules for creating the API, and then there's a spot in here where they're all just a little bit unique and different, but let me do one for, it probably won't be your program, but it'll, let's go back to our exit. Okay, so here on the back end, we're going to do a plugin, let's do a plugin for Tidio Chat. So we're going to search, add a new plugin. Let's go Tidio. Whoops. Well, yeah, WordPress is definitely built to allow for APIs to work in here. But because these programs are designed outside of WordPress, they all have different rules on how to install it. So let me think of the easiest one that has an actual API that will show. See, but what I'm doing here will not necessarily be the same for the one that you're doing, but they'll provide the rules for how to do theirs. Google, for example, Google has the ability to do a reCAPTCHA in there, and they'll have a site key and a site name, which is like the API. Let's go ahead and let's do that. I will do a reCAPTCHA here for reCAPTCHA, for example, is a Google-based third-party program that we can incorporate into a website that requires a unique site key and that would be the same with any API. Is they're going to provide a key. Okay. So I'm gonna do one that will give me a key here. So I'm going to register a new site. This is
the same thing here for yours.
123 site. We're going to do a v3. We're going to put in my domain here. And I'm going to tell it submit. And now it gives me, so this is what you would do in the company is you would go through whatever form process it has, and then it will provide you with something like this. But when it comes to third-party programs, once you fill out their form, they will provide you with API information, like your company would, given this scenario, right? And you would copy this, for example, into pre-designated spots on the website. In this case, it would be under Elementor settings, and there would be integrations, right? And here's a reCAPTCHA place where I put my site key and my secret key, and then once I did that, then reCAPTCHA would be embedded. There would be an API that is uniquely connecting me, this website, to my account on Google. Yeah, you need to create a unique plugin that all of these other companies have created for WordPress, and I'm sure WordPress has directions on that. I'm not a coder, I'm a communicator, but I do have coders that I have access to, and I'd be happy to introduce you to them if that's something your company needs to do. Any other questions for real-world examples? Mm-hmm.
What's the cleanest way?
So the cleanest way is just a fresh rebuild. It's a visual rebuild. But for example, we are going to be doing that right now for this website right here. I'm currently inside a real-world example. So this website is one that they want us to rebuild. So we've loaded up all of the pictures and we're ready to do it. But we have to actually, from this I can grab all of the pictures, and you probably have all your pictures already preloaded, right? So it's just a matter of referencing the two websites side by side and being like, oh, I need a section. Okay, well, I'll just make a section over here using the Elementor format. Oh yeah, okay. So you would build it as a second page, and you would.
Page I'd have to duplicate and do it in a new one.
Yeah, you could. Let me pull up one of my sites that's a Divi built. Okay, so this one's built in Divi, and I don't believe that Elementor is installed on it. Let's go ahead and install Elementor real quick, and then I'll just show you how I would go through the process of. All right, I don't need to create an account yet. We'll just get out of that. Okay, so let's say that I've got Elementor installed on my site, but my site is not an Elementor site natively, right? I would come to a page that I want to work on, and I don't have duplicate page in here, so I can't duplicate any of these pages.
The plugin, you can duplicate it.
Yeah, so I'm gonna, So I'm going to put in duplicate page.
This is helping more than just chirp right away.
No, this is a very common issue, right? That's
Yeah, you inherit a website
that's terrible. Yeah.
terrible thing.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So now I've got duplicate page on here. So we go to pages, and let's say that I want to redo this home page. All right. So we're going to duplicate this, and the new home page is going to have a different code here with the draft. I'm going to do a quick edit, and this is just a home test, and I'm not really going to be. I'm not going to be saving any of this. So let's go ahead and update this, and we are going to edit. Now, at first, edit with Elementor is not even going to be available because it's not formatted in Elementor. So we're going to go into edit mode. And once we're in edit mode, it's going to say, do you want to edit this Divi page in Elementor? So I'm going to say, yes, I would like to not start building. Let's edit with Elementor. Now, when I do edit in Elementor, it's going to say all the coding is totally different. Like, this is not an Elementor site. And this is what it's going to look like. And you're going to be like, oh no, what do I do exactly? What was James teaching me? I can't do anything with this. All right, so we're going to come back, and we're going to now look at the home. We're just going to reference the home page while we're doing it. So I can see here that I've got a standard hero section with the words effective counseling founded on, compassion, connection, meaning. So I've got 4 elements there. Right? So I'm going to come in, and I can see that if I look in the text here, that wording is there, but it's not effective counseling founded on. Here's all the styling related to that, just those words, right? And here's the styling related to these ones. Anyway, I don't want to use those, so I'm gonna start off by going to my container, and we're going to, well, I'll go below it. It's in the way. No, actually, I want to build it above it. Got it. I'm gonna move this 100 pixels down so that I can see what I'm working with. Because the title, actually move it 200 down. The title is in the way, so I couldn't start above it. All right, so here we're going to start a section above it, and we're going to do a new container. All the elements are moving down because I can study that from this other site, right? And it's going to have a background image. It's going to be probably about 650 pixels tall, maybe taller. Let's see here. That's going to be a little taller than that. Let's go ahead and go up to 850, maybe 800. And again, you can massage it a little bit, but all of my content now is still going to be fixed in this content space here. So I'm just going to go ahead and take that. We're going to copy that, and I'm going to bring in a header and another header. Actually, I can duplicate this header. So I've got 2 of those. On my container here, I want it to be centered and centered so that all the elements are there. And I want to give my background an image based from my media library, which is already there, and I believe that's the image that we were working with. It is, but now let's go ahead and make it center, and no repeat, and cover. Okay, so that's going to be very, very similar to what they've done. Looks like they've got a slight background overlay. Right? And let me just show you, I didn't show you this before, but I wanted to. Fixed. If I fix it, then my image now stays in one place while everything moves. Like, it's stuck to the background now, right? While all the content moves. On theirs, I don't believe it's not fixed. So we're going to undo that and make it so that it is just the default, which means it slides with it. And it looks like they may have, there's just a little bit further down. So I'm going to do it center top. I'm going to see what that looks like. Looks like it's a little, no. Theirs is higher still. I'm going to try center bottom. No, It is center. Okay, and just so you know, I can customize this, and I can be like, I want it exactly there, right? Like to the pixel, I can put it exactly where I want. But it's easiest especially for responsiveness, if you work within rules like center. Just keep it centered and cover the space, right? Let's go ahead and enter our text here, and then I do need to find out what font they used. It's one that they will have used already in here, and header font. I can, because you own the website, right? I can enable the visual builder on this one, which will allow me to see some of these decisions a little bit easier. So I can get in and see what, I don't know if I clicked the right element. I didn't. I clicked the row elements. Let's text, link. Let's go into font. I don't actually like Divi. So, great, it's the default. Which means I gotta go back and find it. Let's assume that you know what your font is. Yeah, we'll just choose a script font. All right, so we're gonna come back here and we'll it's going to be dancing script, just for the heck of it. It's going to be white. It's going to be a little bit bigger. This one would tell me it's size 63. Okay, so we'll go to 63 on the size, which it is, of course, a different font. And then here, this one is going to be. Anyway, you see how you kind of have to study it, but they will have, like, you'll be using the same font here, just a different size, right? So it gets easier with each section that you go down. And I do recommend, like, once this one's done, you just duplicate it, take out the background, change the font sizes, change the wording, and then it gets faster and faster as you go down. So on this one, the second heading is the compassion, connection, and meaning.
So can you publish draft again?
Mm-hmm. Yep, so we're going to go back to we're going to discard and exit. We're going to come back to our pages right here. All pages. And once we have gotten in here, let's say our home, we can come into our quick edit here, and we can turn any page from a published page to a draft page, and it will withdraw it from the website, meaning it's still available. I can still edit it here, but it's not going to be accessible on the website. And then I can switch my home, in my home settings, I can switch that one to the new home, so that that's the direction that it'll go. Okay. Is that enough to answer that question, or because it is still going to require you to rebuild?
Rebuild them, but
Yeah.
I know.
But once it's rebuilt, once even one page is rebuilt, any other page of the website is easier to rebuild because you're going to be borrowing elements. I can copy I can copy a whole section from this page, place it on that page, and of course I can duplicate a whole page and make it that page. And every element, everything can be copied, styles can be applied all throughout. And once you've got, it's a little work to get the first one built, but once the first one's built, it's half the time or a third the time or 25% of the time to do the rest of the pages. So anyway, that's it for today.